Mayor Randy Burke,
Here.
Commissioner Ken Gaspar,
Here.
Commissioner Darren Indovino.
Here.
Everyone please rise as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, on the agenda, I recommend, because of time for Mike, that we move the item G. We'll do that third in the presentation.
Third.
Yeah, because we have a couple presenters today. I want them to get through it, and then Mike, because Mike's got to leave at some point.
Mike Easley. You're the Mike.
So I make a motion to remove item G up to the third on the agenda today. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, call the roll.
Mayor Randy Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Ken Gaspar,
Aye.
Commissioner Darren Indovino.
Aye.
Now, before we get started, I would like to mention that this is Jeff Hancock's very last day. He's gone after day, and Mickey, where's Mickey? Right here. Yeah. Mickey is going to be taking it over as of Monday. And Mickey, I appreciate you being down here all week, because I think we got to talk about the issues, and there's a lot of things. So I don't think from a continuity standpoint we're going to lose anything. So I appreciate you being down here this week.
You're welcome.
Okay. Let's go to the first item. This is discussion, decision, approval, proposed water and sewer rate increased options. Now, we had talked about this before, and we were given three options. This was residential, favors residential, all even, or favors commercial. Is that correct? Okay. You've given us, I've asked you for additional information. And I want to stress that this is not to fill the city's coffers. This is to prepare for the future. It's a project, $4 or $5 million project, and we have to get the debt ratio to have access to SRC, state revolving
SRF, state revolving funds.
State revolving funds to the tune of about $5 million, because that's how much it's going to take to do the improvements. And I would like to, this information is to what those improvements do for us. How does it prepare us for the future?
And Mayor, I would say that even if we weren't doing this project, we would be looking at rates.
I agree. The rates have not gone up since 2016, and I want to make sure we get this on the website. With the comparable rates. So I would like that to be there. It's many people won't understand all the stuff you're going to explain to us today, but I'm going to.
It's really about making sure our revenues are in the right spot. Yeah.
Okay, and as I recall, this is a 5-year plan, and you see that out there, 5-year plan. But because we have a 5-year plan, and if we approve that, and that gives Skip what he needs to be able to go and apply for the grant. And that grant the application has to be in by...
It's in. We've already have it in.
Okay, we already have it.
We've been working on this for over a year. And
Yeah.
this is the last step of being able to move forward.
Okay, you're looking for a vote today.
Well, agree on which
Agree.
option.
A nod.
Okay,
The vote
nod,
will be till the
okay.
next council meeting, yeah. What'll come out of this is you guys hopefully agree on a particular option that you like, and then I can take a draft ordinance and give it to DNR. They want to review it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. 216 debt ratio.
And Mayor, you had asked about just some explanation of why we were doing this.
I did. Go ahead.
Do you want to do that now, or?
Let's do it right now.
Okay.
Because I think it will, because we're doing a public hearing. So now is the time we get the presentation, and we're able to go out and answer questions when they come up at the hearing at the next city council meeting. So go ahead.
Yeah, a few years ago, we started having some issues down at the plant with ammonia and some other things going on, and we kind of determined that our rotors in the oxidation ditch were failing. And they've been in there since almost 2000. We went in and rehabbed half of them, put new blades on them, and then used the old blades to kind of get the other half going. and we kind of got up to where we were meeting limits. But we found our nutrient loading was kind of, we didn't have any room. I mean, if we had another industry or something come in here, we were tight. So I had Jared and Dean with AMA take a look at it for us, and they come back to me with a couple of options to help us get a little bit of room down there at the plant. And one was to go in and completely rehab our trickling towers down there. And that was going to be about $10 million to do that. They looked at this other option here where we would open up and redo our primary clarification on the front end of the plant that's been shut down for years, and redo that. And Dean and Jared are thinking we could probably pull 30% of our nutrient loading off the front of the plant there, which would kind of help the back end of the plant, and do that for this $7 million.
So we're talking to the influent to the wastewater. That's where the focus is.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that would help. We could do this project for about $7 million, which was about a $3 million difference. Well, that's the reason I selected to go with this. And then as part of it, we were going to change out half of the rotors, the half that I just did the kind of using the old blades on, and go to diffused air. And I mean, Jared could probably explain it better than me, but diffused air is probably a lot more efficient way of
Takes less power.
yes, yeah, you can go variable speed on the, am I correct on that? Yeah.
Right, to adjust the load.
Mhm. And I mean, we were looking at some savings on electricity that over time kind of makes a big difference on cost, yeah.
Will it affect the smell coming from the plant? Is there any effect there? Going to be about the same? Okay.
No, but by the time it gets back to the oxidation jet, there's very little smell there. The only spot of the plant that you really have a lot of smell is the headworks, and that's mostly encased in the building.
Yes, I remember.
Yep, you've been in there, huh? Yeah.
Okay.
So,
The other thing is phosphorus, because there was a state law out there which we have to be compliant with at some point, correct?
yeah, we're out about 8 years that we've got to be compliant, and part of probably in this 5-year part of it here, we're going to step in and have to tackle phosphorus. And we've already have the piping and the stuff in down there, but there's some probably some tanks and some other equipment that we're going to have to do at some point. And then a further discussion down the road is, and I don't know if we 100% know what our sludge situation is going to look like once we start this, if we're going to have quite a bit more sludge, and if that's going to result in either having to have some more storage or something down there.
So does the first project we're talking about right now, are there one or two projects? Because we have diffuser and then phosphorus is an addition to?
Phosphorus is going to be down the road. I've got about 8 years to get in compliance on that. So I'm probably in about 4 years, we're going to be looking at tackling that project. Yeah, right now, we're getting some room on the nutrient loading into the plant here. This is going to help us for going into the future and having room at the plant, so if somebody else moves into town, we're not banging the top end of our
So it helps us with capacity,
Yep.
energy, okay.
Yep. We have plenty of hydraulic capacity at the plant, but we don't have a lot of nutrient capacity at the plant.
Oh, I see, I got you.
And you keep me straight if I'm veering off line there. Jared's kind of done most of our engineering on the last few projects we've had down at the plant, so.
Okay.
You're doing great.
Your check's in the mail, man.
Let's get the trickle-down tanks, the 3 trickle-down tanks is
Uh-huh.
what you're using? Is that for storage?
They're just gonna be inactive, basically. We're just gonna leave them and do nothing with them at this point. They're there in the future. If we run out of room at that point, they're the next step.
Okay.
We would go in and look at rehabbing them. But right now, at the time, the filtering or the plastic media in it and stuff was incredibly expensive to go in and completely clean it out and put new media in it.
Right.
And to be honest with you, there's quite a process there with those media towers make all kinds of snails, and there's quite a bit of stuff you got to get rid of. They're pretty messy. This will be a lot cleaner product. Yeah.
Okay.
Mayor, I don't know if you're gonna recognize anybody or not here, but Thad's got his hand up.
Is any of these improvements,
Dad, I know, you have, go ahead and ask your question, then I'll talk about it, so.
just quick question, I just was curious if any of these improvements have any effect on the water quality that goes to the golf course? Would improve them?
No, not really, yeah. I mean, what we got coming out the back end is still gonna be kind of the same. I mean, our effluent coming out the back end is in pretty good shape. Yeah, now down the road, Pat, I guess I should say, one of the bigger changes, I guess, would be when we finally tackle phosphorus. You know, the water that we got probably coming to the plant now, it's got quite a bit of phosphorus, or to the course. That would be, I mean, we'd be getting down to a lot more phosphorus. That would be a big change coming here in the next 4 to 5 years. Are you gonna play some more golf, man?
Well, it's a possibility, but, you know.
No, I know they've had some issues out there, but I also know that I think our new superintendent seems to have a handle on what he needs to do, so.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, no problem with the question, Ted. I still don't like you, but
I knew that.
as far as the format for this meeting, this is where the city council talks with the staff to determine a position or what we're gonna do in the next work session, or in the next regular city council meeting. Now, at city council meetings, if you looked at the agendas, here, last 2 agendas, there is a lot of different places, 3 different ways that the public can talk and get input to the city council at the city council meeting. So that's why, you know, we just don't want to be here a long time. We want to get to some of the essential information. So, appreciate, that's a good question. We need to be ready for that one. So, any other discussion from commissioners?
One thing I would add on the sewer end of things, you know, one of the options, or 2 of the options in one, but right now on sewer, we have a 2,000 gallon minimum. I had kind of recommended to AMA when they looked at this to try to get it to where our water and sewer are similar, how we do our bases, where they're both 1,000. So, I mean, but they did put an option in there if you guys so choose to want to stick with the 2,000. But I was kind of hoping we went through this exercise that we would get them to where they're similar. I'm not sure why they wouldn't change the last time.
Yeah, as I remember reading, is that change that you're talking about is in option 1 and option 2, is that correct?
Yes.
Option 1 is the 1,000 base, and option 2 is the 2,000 base.
Okay.
Wait a minute, was option 2 the 1,000, option 3 was the 2,000, I think.
Talking about for sewer.
On sewer 1 and 2, you change to 1,000. The third option is
Was stay at
retaining the
2,000.
2,000. Yes.
Okay, I guess I don't have that one.
No,
Okay, I will get it to you.
Because I had the email with the water changes, but not the sewer one. Okay.
unless it's saying.
Well, that messes up all my spreadsheets.
That's what I'm here for, man.
Is that what you just gave us? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so we do sewer
I'll come
first.
back to that. I'll come back to that at a separate time. I do have some questions on the water side. So we have within the 3 options we have. I see and I have in my possession all the rate tiers for residential, senior, inside city limits, outside city limits, and such. What I don't see are the rates for commercial and industrial. I have the minimums with the base. So on page 8 of 13 of that document, Jared, that you had sent me, it's your appendix A.
You're on water, right?
It shows, this is water, correct? It shows the minimum charge for industrial. Are the per 1,000 gallon rates changing, the tiers or the levels as we call them?
Yes.
They are?
They are.
Okay. Okay, so I've geeked out, I've created myself a spreadsheet, I've analyzed all the rate numbers and groups. I've taken 2024 data, taken a look at what an average for each customer would be in options 1, 2, and 3 for all the 5-year cycles. And how I detected this was that my options, that all the amounts are the same, because I don't have those tier or level prices. So,
they're not gonna make a huge difference on the industrial end of things because of the
Okay.
sheer volume of what they're doing. And you're talking about adding up maybe $100 to something that's, you know, people's gonna have a $20,000 or $30,000 bill.
Okay.
You talking the base rate for industrial?
I have the base rates, but what I don't have is each level, right? So gallon 1,001 to 10,000,
That-
10,001
that's
to.
a change. That's the same across the board, that with those rates.
There's no difference.
Yeah,
in
the
residential
rate-
and
Yeah,
industrial. So you're looking at like line 5 going across.
These stay the same for all three classes. The only
Okay.
thing that's different is this.
Correct, okay.
Did you, the data I asked you for on the impact on each customer, do the commissioners have that?
I don't recall.
Yes.
Did I
Yeah.
copy you guys?
Okay. Because it's uneven, you know, the impact is gonna be large for some of the water intensive industries in Monett, so.
Yeah.
I have some other questions, but it's more about our current billing values and such, so I can ask later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, as far as the three options, well, we got one for sewer and then two for, three for water.
You got three for both.
We got three for both, and option two, as I recall, is one where the load is distributed evenly between residential and, commercial, is that correct?
It's a more even distribution, yes.
Okay. Well, I'm leaning toward option two. I don't know why I should favor one over the other. It just seems equal application.
That's what I feel. I feel the similarity between the three is not that bad, you know. there's
It's
that-
it's not that much, and so that seems like pretty straightforward to me. Ken, you got anything?
I favored option two in our first discussion. Based on my analysis, I'm still with option two.
Okay. Can we agree that option two is what we need to give to Skip to move forward with?
Yeah, and we're talking water or both.
Both.
Yeah, I don't have an opinion on sewer. I don't have those
Okay.
numbers, but I can assume that option two for sewer, similar, it's a more even distribution.
That's all right with you guys, and I'm gonna go ahead and have Jared give me a draft ordinance with the option, and
Yeah.
then we will get it submitted to DNR for review. And then we should have everything ready to go for you guys to move at the next council meeting.
Okay, and that would,
We're having it right before the council meeting.
yep, and that puts us for an April 1 rate change for the customers. Okay. Okay.
All right, what else do you need, Skip?
That's it.
Okay, let's go to the next item.
Nice and easy, Greg.
All right, Jordan.
Great.
Yeah, presentation proposed bike park for Monett South Park presented by Jordan Landers with American Ramp. So I'll hand the floor over to you.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
Could I grab that cable from you? Oh, awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Once you get that plugged in, you'll hit the parent button and it should come right up.
Great.
Will there be a different indicator on here?
Right now.
Oh, there it is. You ready?
Uh-huh.
Okay. It's worked as intended.
The first time.
Perfect. Okay, guys, thanks for having me out today. Like he said, my name's Jordan Landers. I work for American Ramp Company. I've gotten to have several conversations with Dave for a little while now. Actually, I don't know if you knew this or not, but you and I are coming up on our year anniversary.
Yeah, I was just saying, it's been a long process.
Celebration.
I didn't get you anything.
Well, the first time we ever met,
Okay.
we had a lot of contact right before.
Yeah, no, it's exciting to get to come out and visit with you guys for a little bit, talk about who we are and what we do as a company. Now, you're going to have to forgive me. The presentation I've put together is for just a little bit of everything that we do. I know specifically in the notes it says there's bike park interest, and I'd love to zone in on that. The other thing you need to know about me is I don't have a lot of public speaking experience, but what I do have is primarily with junior high boys. And so I'm going to be talking through several different types of projects and specifically trying to hone in on questions that I see coming up in the industry a lot to get at those things. But if you end up having a question that you want to make sure gets answered as we're going through the presentation, I'm going to need you to do what Bo Sitton did to me when he was in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, which is just to find a way to get my attention. He was very good at that. So if we could all just have the courage of Bo to...
It's been a while, but I'll give it a go.
Yeah, you give it a shot. But no, so at American Ramp Company, we exist in the world of like industry-wide what's known as action sports. So think wheeled facilities, whether it's skating or biking, inline skates or scooters, all of those things. And often there's a lot of integration for all wheel types within our park systems, which is really neat. So we get to work on things like skate parks. We do trail systems. We have bicycle playgrounds. It's something we've invented. You can actually see here. This is one in Arkansas. I didn't know, just so you guys are aware, if you want to go out and buy a helicopter from a used helicopter place, that's actually, you're allowed to do that. We figured that out too, and we're able to implement that into this park, which was really fun. But we get to work on those. That's a fun space for kids and families to get to show up and have like a challenging learning environment together. And then we have kind of the grown-up version of that, which falls into our category of bike parks. That's going to be just for a little bit older of an audience, and there's more progression worked into that. And then we have pump tracks. That's a type of bike park, but a separate entity. We'll kind of get to talk more on that, as well as what we would call a combination park, which is just kind of intermixing of some of these elements. The first thing I want to talk to you guys about are our skate parks. And we have a few different build types for our skate parks and a few different materials even within those build types. So this is one of our above ground skate parks, and specifically it's what we call our Pro Series. When people think, I imagine anyways, when you think of skate parks, one of the more traditional things to think of is going to be a concrete style skate park. And those are great. They have their advantages and disadvantages. A common misconception that I get a lot on above ground parks is people are really worried about the longevity of a park and the maintenance of the park. What's really fascinating specifically about this Pro Series park, as we call it, it's made with 7-gauge steel for the ramp surfacing, and the framework's all galvanized as well as those guardrails. And then the ramp surfacing comes powder coated. The warranty on this is a 20-year limited warranty, which is more than any concrete skate park gets in the industry. And they typically actually outlive concrete parks with an average lifespan of about 20 to 25 years before you need to look at doing anything serious. And the maintenance is much lower than what you'd expect on concrete as well. And the only thing you have to do with a park like this is about every 5 to 7 years. It's going to need a new coat of paint, but we do sell the gallons, and those are roll-ons so that any maintenance crew can take care of that, or you can give us a call and we can come out and take care of that for you guys as well.
Jordan, I don't want to interrupt you, but I am.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to answer this.
Sure.
And I don't understand, is there a safety or a liability issue for this?
Sure. So that's something we probably it'd be good to have more of an in-depth conversation to get in the weeds on that, because we've got guys who are able to answer those questions better than I can in a public meeting like this. However, the general answer to the question is across the industry we have way more incidents and reports that are happening at playgrounds than at skate parks. And there are a couple of reasons for that. We don't really have major problems with it, and like I said, I can connect you to the resources to have more in-depth conversations on that. Part of it is in action sports, kids kind of expect to fall down and get back up again. And so we don't. We also have safety measures we take for each area.
So there are safety standards.
Oh,
Someone
yeah.
says standards.
Yes,
okay.
there's a safety standard sheet for skate parks, and our skate parks meet all the requirements for those.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's a great question. That gets brought up a lot, and there are ways to facilitate if we want to get more in the weeds on what that looks like practically for you guys as a city. That's really easy to connect you to resources. So thanks for the question. So here's another just example of what that Pro Series looks like. And then I mentioned we have a few different build types. So this next one is still an above ground skate park, but the material is going to be a little bit different on something like this. You're going to notice that instead of just solid sheets of metal, you have different sheets put together on that. And those are actually made of like a phenolic resin board. When people see this style of skate park, what comes to mind pretty immediately is this is the style that when Tony Hawk was first getting into it and becoming larger than life, this is what he was skating on. There are some really good values to this style of park, and for certain communities, it makes more sense to go this direction. If you think about it, in particular, one of the most notable things is if you think about skating on metal ramps or like a phenolic sheet like this, the noise is just going to be different. This is going to be a quieter experience. Now, for a lot of communities who have those metal skate parks, if you're not in a really concentrated city, like these are really popular in Chicago, just for the sake of construction and noise constraints out there. So we do a lot of work there and really across the U.S. in different communities. But when it's more spread out, pretty often we see people going more with the Pro Series, and there's two reasons. One is it ends up being a little bit cheaper. The build for this is a lot more involved than our Pro Series park is. And two, from a maintenance standpoint, instead of repainting about every 5 to 7 years, the sheets are going to need to be replaced on that. So that's just more maintenance and more cost over time. Not at all a bad option and worth exploring if your community's like, we also have, this is worth mentioning, we have a great community engagement tool when we work on skate parks. And so it'd be really easy to see what the values are for your community, whether it's style or features or anything like that, when putting a park together like this. Also notable, we recommend handling the pad in-house. So that's something you guys would save funding on that way, likely, especially if you have a connection within the city that you work with who's good at concrete. We can give the spec sheets for what that would look like and provide what the pad would need to be, but that's kind of a way to keep some of that funding just within the city.
So the pad is concrete?
The pad's concrete.
Jordan,
Yep.
you're probably not aware, but we have an existing skate park.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
That Jack phenolic system in.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's my bad for recovering this. Sorry about
Yeah,
that.
no, it's all right. I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Sure. No, that's great. Yeah.
Is there a lot of use of that one in the North Park?
Yeah, there is.
Does it last 20 years?
No, he said that the phenolic doesn't last that long, and it is high, there's some required maintenance with it that you guys have to do.
Do you know who built that park?
Miracle.
Miracle. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. There's a chance like we could definitely like do an evaluation if there's anything to follow up on, anything we can help out with that park. That's really easy for us to kind of talk about. Switching styles up a little bit. I'll get into this just so that we can have the time to talk about this as well. We also do in-ground concrete parks. This is a great project. This is back in Joplin, one of the skate parks that we have just locally. And it's actually a really fun experience. We get a lot of people traveling from outside Joplin coming to visit this park, which is fun to get to see visitors stopping in. There are advantages to concrete. Obviously, like a lot of people, you're going to have skaters who, when they think of a skate park, they immediately think concrete. And there are just different elements that you get to have. Like, it's a little more difficult to have a good bowl in an above ground park, but something like this, there's just different opportunity here. Neither one of them are wrong, and really it's a matter of figuring out what the best fit for your community is. But this can be a great option.
What kind of warranty is on this one?
So this one comes with a 1-year warranty, and it's like a construction warranty to make sure within the first year that there's no cracking or anything like that. Past that's what that warranty looks like. We don't see, we have concrete skate parks across the country. There's not often that you've run into major problems with them. There's going to be cracking in concrete as time goes on. That's just kind of the name of the game. And there are ways to address that as it goes and stay on top of things. But yeah, the warranty on this one really is, it's just that 1-year construction warranty versus the 20-year of the other park as well. So, but no, these are a great option. I wanted to share this project as well just because I was thinking of it, and the picture's really wonky on here, so you're gonna have to forgive me. But it's totally sideways. We all just have to tilt our heads to figure it out. But this is over in Mount Vernon. This is a park we did out there, and we're actually, there's potential to maybe do some other stuff with this park down the road, but got to visit this park this last year. It was really fun, and it was actually, we got to experience a wholesome moment. My counterpart was with me that day, and he had a Patagonia puffer vest on, and he left it on one of the benches at the skate park and forgot it, and then we went to another meeting, and there were a couple guys skating out at the park while we were there, and when we came back, one of the guys had stashed it away for him and waited for him to come back and was still skating, and gave it back to him. So it was kind of cool to get to see what the community is like out there with this program, which is fun. I also wanted to cover, obviously, which I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but there is a cost difference between concrete and above ground. Typically concrete's going to be more expensive. Now there's more accessibility than people think. There's a project, oftentimes I'll get on the phone with people and they'll be like, man, I'm expecting $500,000 on a concrete park. And that's true. We do $500,000 projects and more. But there is a community I'm working with right now, and their budget was about $300,000, and so we were able to accomplish something really cool with that budget still as well. But that's just something to keep in your back pocket. Typical range for an above ground park is going to fall probably more into the category, at least for equipment only, with the slab being already provided, anywhere from $150,000 to $250,000, and that's going to be at the 250 cap. That's a really good sized park. So those are just numbers to keep in mind. Moving on from skate parks, we get into more of the biking side of things, and we'll start with bicycle.
I want to ask a city question too.
Yeah.
Does Monett have a supplier of helmets, knee pads, skateboards, and all that stuff in town? Other kids who use these parks have to go to a skate center type of place to get there.
Academy, whatever.
So
it has
Monett,
or not.
even our Monett Walmart doesn't
I mean,
have.
Monett Walmart does carry bottom basic stuff with helmets and knee pads and some skateboards and stuff.
Is a rental option idea, kind of like the YMCA does with certain outside equipment, an option? They can
I
rent
don't-
pads, helmets.
I don't think they do because the skate park's on the other end of town, so.
Yeah, no,
I
but
don't-
I'm just like that system. I'm saying, as a comparative, to get some revenue. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great question. We've had communities, gosh, you're gonna have to forgive me. I have so many different conversations and I forget which one this is, but we recently did some big biking infrastructure, and they've actually opened up some bike shops since that's been installed. So there's lots of different ways that from the work we do, and it really depends on what your win is for a project too. We could have conversations about hey, are you trying to bring people to town, or are you trying to meet a need in your community? What's the baseline need here, or some of both? And most of the time it's that. But we can talk about the best ways to do that on any project that we would be stepping in with.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. These are our bicycle playgrounds. We are actually the inventor of these, an American Ramp Company, and it came out of being in the biking industry and seeing that there was kind of a hole to fill in the world of getting younger people involved so that they can kind of grow up in the sport in general. This is a fun park. This is in Neosho, Missouri. It's about 20-30 minutes south of Joplin. We call this Rocket Park. So that's like a custom tunnel. We don't normally do them like that, but we were able to incorporate like a custom tunnel, and they actually, I don't have some pictures of it, but they've got these planter boxes too that kids can ride through, which is really fun. The typical age range for a park like this is going to be anywhere from when you're 2 years old hopping on a strider bike for the first time with mom and dad helping you to kind of balance, all the way up to probably 14, 15 years old is when you're going to start aging out of this program and wanting to look at being a part of more of a bike park. I've got one of my favorite things about our playgrounds is just how different they can be. In this first picture, you can see how spread out the park is. So this is actually, and I think they even call it a school. There's some signage up at the front for that. But if I'm remembering correctly, this is being used for like almost a bicycle training ground. So there's actual programming that exists at this. And you can see there's a few different elements past just the trail features that really teach how to do like dirt trail riding in the long term. You've got a pump track on there, which is kind of that concentrated learning ground, and then kind of a smaller off branch, and that's like a younger kids little area. You can kind of see it there. It's got like some rings and a tunnel there.
Is that Neosho?
No,
Okay.
this one's not Neosho.
This was.
We should ask them if they want it, but it's not Neosho. Oh. I actually, you're gonna have to forgive me. I do know several of these projects. I don't remember this one. I'd have to look that back up, but I can tell you where that's from.
It's a KOA campground.
Yeah. But yeah, they can be spread out. So if you've got a big space that you're trying to use up, that's awesome. And then, if you want something that's more consolidated, and really, these can exist in kind of funky shapes that are difficult to find, like, hey, what are we going to do with this? Or even floodplains. We have different areas of work that we're able to do in spaces that do have flood considerations to take into account. But this is another example of an awesome park that we got to do some custom features on, and I wish I could show you everything. Back in the back, there's like some custom shading, and then those tires were provided by the city, and we retrofitted them into the park. There's several different custom wooden features throughout, things like that, but really kind of a fun little space. And then the older brother of the bicycle playground, and these encompass a lot of different things, but it's going to be bike parks. Our bike parks, if you can imagine a bicycle playground being scaled down and really accessible, this is just like more progressional. So you're going to have young teens, really anywhere from like 10 to 70 years old have access to something like this pretty often. And because they're progressional, everybody has access to a different part of it at different times too as you grow. This park is really kind of low level, and I have another example here that's similar. So this next one is in Arkansas, and you can take like a pretty young kid on a park like this and they can do okay. So there's some intermixing here where it's kind of just a peaceful place to get to ride around, practice some of these skills features, and learn in a specific area. And then if we kind of move further down the line into, let's see if it'll switch. Hey, there we go. This is another style of bike park, and I love this one. We do this hard surfacing or dirt trail like this, but we've styled a lot of our bike parks in a manner that's similar to this, and it's almost in the same way you would, if any of you guys have ever been skiing before, where there's green, blues, and blacks. So you can see on the far left-hand side, it's the beginner track. Everything's rollable and pretty accessible. It's flat with just features. And then the middle line is still actually all rollable. It's hard to tell because the shadow line, but you can actually pop up over those and just stay on the ground the entire time. That's going to be a little more advanced, but still like workable for a lot of riders. And then as you progress through the park, you get over to the expert line as you learn and grow, and you're going to start to see like more gaps where you're actually going to be jumping or getting a little bit of airtime and kind of learning how to do that. And just you can see on the way back, you're just hitting kind of some basic skills features as you're going back to the start again. Any questions over our bike parks or playgrounds? Anything that's coming
How
up?
much maintenance is involved with this? I was just thinking about looking at these bare dirt type things. You get a 2-inch rain or something and you get a big wash or something. Is that something like Dave's crew's constantly gonna have to be out kind of smoothing up the track and doing work on to keep it rideable, or?
Yeah, that's a great question. The answer is yes and no. That's why like hard surfacing is great because it's no maintenance at that point. That being said, if you notice here, the wooden features that we have out there are made out of, the base is thick galvanized steel, and it gets mounted in, and the planking cedar planks, and they're a thick board on that. So they actually have been specifically designed on dirt tracks like this, or especially if we're like this, or if we're going through the woods on trails. A lot of times people will reach out to us and say, hey, we're having trouble maintaining our trails. We have our maintenance crews tied up full time doing all of this dirt work, and we need a solution for that. So these take, and we're specific in our design to make this happen, but these take the brunt of the impact. So the areas that you're going to be hitting most frequently on your bike, like that kicker is absorbing it. The other side of that dirt mound is really just a landing pad. And that's not to say there's no maintenance involved, especially in a park like this where there is more earthwork. We have different designs where that's more or less true. Like even going back to this one, we also do trail work for each of our bike parks. And so it's not just basic dirt that's out there. We'll use a mixture of different elements. Sometimes it's decomposed granite or anything like that. That's going to help with the life of the park and the maintenance of the park. So it's not as if we're just doing nothing about that, but it will involve some dirt work and maintenance to be accomplished there. And that is another thing that as we explore options within any of our bike parks, we want to ask you guys a lot of questions to see what that looks like for you. Places like Arkansas are really big into keeping things, their parks natural, and they have so many people hired on to maintain their trails that makes a lot of sense. It's not going to make sense for everybody, so we'd want to find a solution that would actually work for your community and be sustainable for the life of the park.
I think with heavier use, you're going to have a lot of compaction.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, you'll have a lot of runoff, that's a result, but.
Yeah, and just the general looks of it too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right.
Are cities responsible for liability, or they put up a sign that says bike at your own risk?
So that's the thing is that for both our skate parks and our bike parks, we help you guys with signage, and that's really the number one way
And
that gets taken.
must they have PPE, I guess a good way to call it, to even be on the parks?
You can put language in that's like helmet required. People won't always follow that, but at least it's on the sign.
Then we're
It's
gonna
tough to police it.
Yeah, it's tough you can't just, then all of a sudden your maintenance guys are tied up standing out there making sure everybody's got a helmet. But we can,
Darren's gonna do it. He's volunteering.
Just
Doing
give
it
him,
already.
just give him a whistle.
no, we, with both our skate and bike parks, that really is, I should have mentioned that when I was talking liability. We can't tell you what to put on the sign, but we have examples of different bike park and skate park signs that people commonly use. And so you're able to kind of pull a lot of that language, find what fits best for your community specifically, and then we would take care of that signage for you.
I've seen some pretty gnarly injuries on a basketball court.
Yeah. I don't say it probably won't ever absolve you of all, you know, I mean, if there's a chug hole or something that's come up out there, that sign won't mean squat at that point because the conditions have changed. Yeah.
And if we make this challenging like this thing, you could assure yourself that everybody's gonna try that to conquer it, in a sense. Anyway, okay.
Which we can have, again, if there's a question of like, what does building a bike park and having progression look like? Also, you don't have to, like, if gaps make you guys uncomfortable, there's a way to create parks where you can still do jumps if you have the ability to, but everything can be rollable. And that's what I do. Like, there's a park called the Rail Yard out in Northwest Arkansas, or Rogers, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's one of our parks out there, and I hit the rollable stuff. I'm not hopping on an expert line and doing any of the drops or the jumps. So I will hit stuff that like other people will jump on, but I just hit it slow enough to where I'm popping up at the top and rolling. So I'm not doing anything too crazy.
Sure.
The next thing, this is style of bike park. It'll switch here in a minute probably, but these are called pump tracks. And we actually have a really cool spot in the industry with our pump tracks. These are VeloSolution asphalt pump tracks. We have an exclusive relationship with the providers of this track, and this is a UCI certified competition track. It used to be head up by Red Bull, and those competitions have been turned over to UCI to maintain steady competitions moving forward. So this is one of those things that can be a tourist attraction. Really all of these elements I've shown you so far can, but different communities have different desires for each park. I know Paris, Texas is a community of, gosh, I'd have to look it back up, 7 to 14,000, somewhere in there. And they have a really sweet competition pump track that they built, and they have used it to host a competition, national competition on, and that's been really great for them. So it's just different desires within each community. The advantages to our pump tracks is we have other options if the desire is to move away from more of that tourist attraction into something that's going to be more practical. So there are lower budget requirements on some of those tracks. For an introduction into something like this, you'd want to be looking at a budget of somewhere between $450 to $550, $550,000, somewhere in that for a track of this style. And the advantage really to a pump track, and even in Northwest Arkansas, this is something they have several of. If you notice on the track, it's called a pump track because you're not actually pedaling. At least when you get good enough at it, you're not. When you first start out, everybody's pedaling. But over time, what you learn to do on something like this is actually use your momentum and your positioning to pump and push through the track. And it's actually pretty incredible. People, when you get good enough at it, like the pros will spend more time in the air than they will touching the track, just because they've got a lot of speed going and they're making these crazy transitions and things. But what it teaches you is all of these tight corners and all of these hills and all of the landings and things like that really prepares riders for more intense versions of mountain bike trail riding. So you're going to learn how to corner really well, because you're cornering, I don't know how many times in one session you'd be taking a corner at a radius like that, as opposed to going on a mountain bike trail that's more spread out. So this is a more concentrated learning environment. As far as maintenance goes, these are really easy. Typical lifespan on a track like this is going to be between 15-20 years, and it is asphalt, so you will have some cracking that happens over time. And the good news is that the way to solve that is the same way you would do maintenance on a road, just with a hot or a cold patch. We'll take care of that. We do recommend sealing it every few years. Again, the same way you would work on road maintenance. That being said, the asphalt we use in a track like this is not road asphalt. It is very specialized, and because of that, it can accommodate all wheel types. So a skateboarder would be able to comfortably ride on a track like this without feeling like on a road it's going to be a very rough ride. This would be a lot smoother. These are bulletproofed from the ground up. We're very intentional about how we build these and how they're designed, so they get a lot of fill that goes underneath to help with things like expansion and contraction. And oh, I lost my train of thought. They're really cool. You guys should try it. No, these tracks are great, and we don't see a lot of big issues in the world of maintenance that really come up past when a crack opens up, especially as you guys do go through freeze and thaw cycles. You just have to stay on top of it, be aware of when it's happening, and make sure that gets sealed. This is just a fun example of a cool track. This is the second biggest track in the U.S., and it is over near St. Charles, Missouri, by St. Louis. And so if you guys ever get a chance to visit, it's a huge tourist attraction for them. If you can imagine, it's called Kinetic Bike Park. And they do have, I don't know exactly how this is accomplished, but they've got helmets and knee pads on site that they just, if somebody shows up without one, I don't know if they rent them or just make you wear them. I got to put one on, and it was very clear that somebody had sweat in that helmet before I did. So, yeah, you might...
Hard pass.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Anyways, a really cool track. These can be really intimidating sometimes, though. It doesn't... if you're doing a competition track, we're looking at a little bit higher budget. This would be more in line with something like that. There are options for smaller versions of this, though, too. You can see right here, this is a lot smaller footprint. And
All right, Jordan, you got about 5 minutes before you gotta move on.
great. In that case, guys, let's move on to the last thing real quick, because we've covered this enough. The other thing I want to mention with you guys is just our combination parks. A lot of our parks go hand in hand with one another, and I wish I had better examples. I wanted to pull in some of our biking infrastructure with our bicycle playgrounds, because those are always a really popular amenity to have next to each other. But this is like a typical skate park and pump track. Because both of these are smooth surfacing, the bikes can ride on the skate can ride on the bikes, and then you can have inline and scooters on either one of these as well, utilizing the way the program was intended to be utilized. So another one, in this example, you've got an above ground park with a large concrete bowl and a big pump track over there. Again, all wheels utilizing all areas of this park. And this is just kind of the last photo, and this is just a more accessible. I was showing some big parks. I wanted to show an example of this one is a smaller pump track off of a decent sized little skate park there, but it's fun just to have a little loop to be able to go around and pump through and then hop back on the skate park. That's my last picture. Do we have a couple minutes here?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
You got 2
All right, I got
minutes.
2 minutes of questions.
You mentioned inline. What do you see inline skaters using mostly?
It really varies. Like as far as pump tracks or skate parks, it's both.
Okay.
So especially when you have these combination parks, you'll see them pumping through a pump track, hitting skates, doing it all. Yeah, all wheels love both of these amenities.
Okay.
And if you use bike paths too, right? Inlines.
Dirt bike paths? No, wouldn't. No.
Thank you, Jordan. Yeah, appreciate it.
Oh yeah, thanks for
Hey,
letting me
giving
know.
us some options of what we might
That's the
look at
pump
in
track.
future.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thanks for letting me take some time and talk. If you're okay with it,
That's fine.
I'm gonna leave a few catalogs, and I've got these T-shirts too. I didn't know what size you were.
A lot. A lot.
You'll
My
just
size.
you'll just have to dig through. I wasn't about to guess.
We're gonna cover Kiwanis Playground. We'll do that next, and then we ought to look at some of the things that we can move ahead if we want to do something with the park. So, Mike, why don't you go ahead?
Thank you, Jordan.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you,
it.
Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan, appreciate it, man.
Thanks, Dave.
Okay, so we're on discussion regard item G there.
I guess Mr. Berger might have some information for you as far as wanting you guys to consider doing a special district downtown for revamping old buildings and not using as restrictive codes for that special district.
Well, yeah, what we're facing downtown is like the sprinkler systems in this case. Because when those buildings were built, they didn't have sprinkler systems. Now, sprinkler systems are a significant safety issue. So I think right here, and Darren, you might want to engage with Main Street on this.
Absolutely.
To look what the districts are, because in this specific case, I'm worried about the liability to the city.
That's exactly what we're doing moving forward. We're looking at many different variables, honestly, individually, instead of hooking up to a, like a big, like a restaurant in a sense, has a big fire extinguisher tank. You could probably individually put these maybe in each individual loft, or running a main from a new main behind these buildings, so they don't all have to tap every time someone invests in one of these buildings and makes another use out of a building. Working with Skip in his conversation, we've talked to him about it, but so far there's been no primary answer as to what to do moving forward. We want to have improvement on Broadway, for example. And as we improve Broadway, these things are going to keep coming up every time something like that happens. So It's up to the city that's going to have to figure out, moving forward, if we're going to plumb basically the back end of the north side, because the south side has a main, if I'm right, Skip,
Well,
correct me?
I guess the question I would ask is, the city in Pete's time here built that 10-inch main on their dime all the way down. How much investment should we be, how many mains do we need to build down there to make this work, And, what's, that's just a give at that point.
Right.
Ratepayers are gonna pay for that.
And that's
Sorry,
where we're at
what
right
did you
now
say,
with this
ratepayers?
situation.
Ratepayers,
Yeah.
yeah.
Just gonna come out of the
Yeah, it's just the water
reserves.
department pays for it.
Yeah.
Just comes out of
Okay.
our funds, yeah.
And what's the estimate of that? On this particular,
Well, what they're talking about, if you're gonna run that whole length of it, it's about $300,000, $400,000, $500,000.
right, yeah.
You're talking about, this is both sides, both north and south of Broadway, or both?
Well, I know that they were talking about having another line on the other side of Broadway, but that's.
On the north, because there's a line on the
That's
south.
expensive, yeah. There's storm sewer, there's all kinds of stuff to kind of navigate to get through there. Yeah.
Mayor, you're, if I might, you're right. And so it was my suggestion that Mike touch base with other cities and what they've done. And then, of course, Main Street has a connection with National Main Street. This is an issue that is, obviously impacted other cities and others. And where this came about, some of it came about, is that Mr. Berger said, well, I want to appeal to a Board of Adjustment. Well, our attorney says, Board of Adjustment doesn't apply. So now I did some checking with some Main Street people, and maybe they've done some more, maybe Mike's done some more. But in some communities, they've changed the code because this is a new code and they haven't implemented it. They've elected to do that. Some people have done that. I did find out also that in some codes there are what's called a Board of Appeals. That's another thing that I found out. And so it's an issue that's having place. Now, my understanding, just to give a summary, for restaurants, that's pretty standard, and they're expensive. Put a hood and all that. That's not the issue that we're talking here. The issue is that once you change a use, which is the upstairs, and this individual wants to put apartments up there, and that's where the codes come in, that you have to have a suppression system, and that individual wants to build 3 apartments. Well, if he had 2 apartments, it wouldn't apply. And so that's a little bit of background, and I know now that I've learned that Main Street has been in conversations with the state Main Street people about not only this but a lot of other issues. So that's just a little summary talking to Mickey. And it's a policy issue that obviously is going to take a lot more study on, with some recommendations and ideas and options from Mike and the new city administrator and water. But hopefully that gives you a little summary of what I've learned about the issue.
And moving forward, we're gonna have other people, we have momentum now on Broadway. So we have 3 buildings right now that are in use, and I'm gonna ask you for a correction of what you just said. Is it a 3 loft, maybe Mike can answer too, is it a 3 loft, 2 loft, or square footage that requires sprinklers?
Well, Mike, you answer it.
Well, once he changed the use in the top of the building, that brought the building, that means the building would have to be brought up to code. Well, the building is also now being used for mixed use, so it's residential and a restaurant in the bottom. So therefore, it would need sprinkled, whether it was 1 apartment or 3 apartments.
So we're talking with many different avenues. We're looking at with the state Main Street. We're talking to them. We talked to the Historical Society and got some names and stuff we haven't completed the conversation with yet. But as this moves forward, this is number 1. What's going on at 404 Broadway, and down the road, I'm sure we'll have more of this coming up in the future. Will they or will they not have to do these types of suppression systems? And the liability goes is the biggest thing. The liability. If you don't do it, there's a liability issue, the safety of the public use of the building.
Other folks are doing it. We need to know what they're doing. The other thing with the Main
and we're
Street,
doing it
are
too.
there any grants available to help it with
I'm
something
sure
like
there
this?
are.
So we don't.
Yeah, I'm sure there are. We have someone coming to town on the 13th or 12th of March who's going to talk to us as an economic development person and tell us some other
Is that
ideas.
from Missouri Main Street is coming in?
Negative. This is the gentleman Jeff had brought in named Scott. Is that him?
That's for the modulars.
Oh, that's modular. Okay.
Yeah, that's the modular.
So that's
issue.
not going to be a
It's a
discussion.
different issue.
Fair. So the question remains now is how do we move forward? What do we do? The code, IBC code 2018 is in use, and anything dated thereafter is going to require mixed use or change of use is going to require a sprinkler system.
I'm worried about the liability issue, and I'm also, what do other people do? Because we're not the only ones. Missouri Main Street, I think, can help us. So I think our Main Street, Monett Main Street, is looking that direction, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So just out of curiosity, and I'm just wondering, maybe devil's advocate, if, say something like this gets done, what's to keep industrial partners that are wanting to develop and move ahead and go, you know what, we want to have that kind of a industrial district out here because I'm wanting to build a warehouse, and it's costing me a lot of money to put a sprinkler system in for a warehouse. I shouldn't have to do that.
Yeah,
Are we creating kind of we're going to just play whack-a-mole?
I think that's why we're talking about a special district.
Yeah, but they could ask for the same thing, a special industrial district there where they wouldn't have to do that in an area.
Setting a precedent.
Just a question.
Well, they have to meet OSHA standards.
Where has that question already been posed and declined?
This is a code.
This is a code deal.
Code deal.
Yeah. Well, you raised a good point, and you raised a good point. Anytime you do something for one, or it opens up a potential can of worms.
I guess that's just the thought process going down the road.
Yeah. As a guy, you're right, and that needs to be considered. But downtowns where you've got old historic buildings and codes and stuff, it is a unique situation of the balance of the codes and this is true. That's why you want to encourage housing near the downtown because that creates activity, foot traffic, and what. I don't have an answer. It needs a lot of study. It's a policy issue, and we just wanted to communicate that we're in the study stage. But in the meantime, there's not an easy answer to right now to say, yeah, you can go ahead and do this building. you know, and so that's where we're at, so.
There
Now,
were,
another question I like an answer to is this gonna affect our ISO rating?
I would have to check into that. I
Okay,
would
yeah,
assume that
that's
it
one
will.
piece of data, let's take a look at that too.
I would assume that it
It's,
will.
it's on the fringes, but it's still a question worth getting the answer to.
do you want to have any weigh in from Main Street? Serena, she wants to say something about what's going on today, or do you want to just,
Is that okay?
Yes, because the commissioners asked you to speak.
Monett Main Street's position currently isn't looking for opting out of this particular problem. As we look at the downtown redevelopment project, or the proposal that we're working on, what I would love is to find out what the cost of the full repair would be and build it into that project. It's our belief that fixing all that's really a city infrastructure issue, but since we're doing this whole redevelopment thing anyway, if we can get a price, we would need it within the next few weeks. Is that something you can do, Skip? Tell us like.
I can get you a real spitball, high-end number anyway, yeah.
Okay.
Because I am thinking when you say that's a city infrastructure problem, we have a 10-inch main that runs all the way down Broadway. I'm not following how that's an infrastructure
Well,
problem.
I guess, when I think about new construction, I think about infrastructure costs being passed on to developers. When I think about existing construction, I expect the city to have what we need that we can tap into at least.
And I
But-
would say it's a 10-inch line right there to
Right.
tap into. And
Is it-
where are we gonna be in the right spot to down the road? No, that's
So
not right.
I have a question, general question, and I get confused. There's a 10-inch main on one side of the street, and so to get to that particular building, do you have to cross? And so that to cross, you have to bring that line over to the
They
other.
run a fire line across, yeah.
Yeah, so much, so that's a cost.
Sure is.
Yeah, and so you need to know that, because that, usually that is the developer has to pay for that.
Yeah.
And-
Well, I mean, everything's on the table.
Yeah.
If we wanna like start whacking a special assessment on all the buildings down there or something, where we're getting funding in to kind of pay for some infrastructure work, or sales tax or
Yeah.
something on that
Yeah.
district or something, I don't think anything's on the table. I'm just a little bit leery of, hanging the city out for all of that
Yep.
without some sort of a.
But to
guarantee.
cross the road to get that's one cost. What's that cost off the top of your head?
You're probably looking at, I forgot what Bob was telling me. Bad, you remember? Yeah, he was giving me a number for the whole thing, but I don't remember what the cost across the road was.
It will cost more to bring water to the building than the sprinkler system itself costs.
Which is about 60. So it's 120,000 roughly.
Yeah, it's anywhere from $60,000 to $100,000 to bring water to that building, just to bring the water.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
$45,000 to put sprinkler.
Right.
and that's per building. So if a
That's
neighbor
for this,
does it,
that's
they
this
have to do the
particular
same.
project.
Yeah, and they get there, but when you bring it across, you're not taking a whole square block. You're just doing it one individual project.
So we'd have to tear up the street?
Yeah.
One way or another, that's gotta happen. I mean, the street's gotta be tore up at some point. The problem is, if I'm looking at the bank building over here, I got a 10-inch line laying there in 4th Street. I gotta go 20 feet with that. Here I've gotta go, anywhere from 60 to 100 feet, depending on which way they bring it, the water supply.
I don't think it's 60 all the way from the building to the other side of the street, is it?
Yeah, it'd be close, I'd say.
Or where the main is anyway, but anyway, yeah.
I guess my ask would be if the city can utilize their engineers and their people to figure out what it would cost to just take care of the whole problem, so that I have something that I can build into this plan and look for federal dollars, because with what we're doing with Monett Main Street right now, we're re-emerging and we're gonna be eligible for a lot of different things.
I would say that I can work with Kevin and see if we can come up with a number, but we're just gonna have to be really conservative because the pricing is, him and I can't even guess on a project right now what it's gonna come in at. It's crazy. Is that a fair statement, Kevin? Okay.
Well,
Well, there's there's, for the council to consider, we aren't, probably gonna get this solved now. And so that's unfortunate, but it's either from a policy decision, if other communities, you don't wanna have that code, that's one situation. You can look at including an appeal process, in an appeal process, you would incorporate that for your codes, which is made up usually of that board is made up of other, utility folks and code people and stuff like that. You can add an appeal process. Once that appeal, like a board of adjustment, a decision is made, then you always have the option of anybody, including the person, can appeal that to the circuit court, or you can look at two different costs. One is that individual cost, which is 60,000 and 30, and and that's what it is. Or long-term, you're looking at, what did you say off the top of your head, $300,000 to $500,000.
Can we take a look at it?
And
Another 10-inch line.
And in that, a lot of communities have special business districts. Usually those are property taxes, but you could have a sales tax. But those are your options, and you're right, Ken. I mean, it's not going to be solved right now. The council, the only option is if the council wants to change the code, which would take probably 2 months, immediate. So that's so those are your options that you should consider. And it sounds like to make an intelligent decision, you need additional information from what other communities have been dealing with this.
So you talked about a 10-inch main on Broadway. According to the GIS map, I see a 12-inch main that runs.
Is it 10 or 12? 12.
Okay.
Okay, my
There's
bad.
12 on this side of Broadway, and there's a 10 on,
Yeah, the
they're
city
running down
built the
4th.
12-inch when they done the sidewalk project.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
Exactly.
That's what it looks like. There's a 10-inch that's running, I'll call it north-south, right? It runs along 4th Street.
Correct.
In addition to a 4-inch that runs, looks like parallel to the 10-inch.
What do you need for sprinkler system?
It's normally I think this was calling for like a 4-inch line, so. But you know what, I mean, it depends, if you're gonna stick one in every building down through there, in theory, if you've got a big fire, that gets back to, I would have to talk to Kevin on what design standards would be.
Well, and it does impact ISO. I mean, it potentially
Good
could.
point,
Yeah, it does.
Well, the question is, how many of these businesses down there want to
Convert.
change their use? Are we talking about 1, 10, 15, or 20?
Good point.
Which affects what we're considering to do in the future to improve the fire protection in that
Yeah.
area, so they can get sprinklers in their buildings.
Yeah.
We don't know.
I can tell you this is a deterrent from doing that. This is a very big deterrent from repurposing any of those buildings when you're looking at cost like this.
Yeah, I understand. The big picture here is we need to find out what everyone else, what is out from a standpoint, and then we can start looking at costs and engineering stuff.
Mike, what other areas of the city do we have this potential issue?
None that I can think of. I mean, if a sprinkler system is
I know
required,
that when Weston put in.
if somebody builds a warehouse, they know that that's part of it, and they add that to the cost of the building.
But I think there was a lot of wailing and gnashing of teeth, I know, whenever one was built out.
And unfortunately, this is happening as an outside observer. This is happening everywhere.
Sure.
With the new sprinkler system. I live at Lake of the Ozarks, and what happens is, and I know these people, they go out and they buy a building, they haven't looked at the codes, and then And then under the new codes, you know, in all commercial, you have to have in the commercial area suppression system, and they go, and I know these people personally, and they go, I didn't know that we had to do that, you know, didn't check the codes, and then the city communicates, and then the city is the bad guy. I mean, that's the practicality of it, and it's happening all over the country.
Well, I would like to say that, you know, this is, you know, we're dealing with an individual, and yes, I work for the individual. We're dealing with an individual that has made a substantial investment in downtown Monett and is willing to continue to make more. So, you know, we're just looking for, you know, we didn't have any problem putting a sprinkler system in the Historical Society. That's 20,000 square feet. You know, we did that in 2016. We had easy access right off 5th Street. Same thing on 4th Street with the bank building over there. We have easy access. Here we do not have access that is, you know, really monetarily feasible to access. That's, I think, what we're looking for. We're not looking for special favors. We understand that the sprinkler system needs to be put in. We're looking for help, you know, to get that water across the street. Or to that, closer to that building. That's, I think, the real ask.
Monett Main Street's answer to which buildings would be all of them.
Yes.
Things can change hand, ownership is potentially will change hand depending on the things that we're doing down there. So we would prefer to have a solution that addresses the potential of all buildings with upper floors.
Yes. Personally, right now you have 3, maybe 4 buildings in the 400 block that is, and this being one of them that we're talking about. You know, you have the J.C. Penney's building next door. I've heard rumors of possibly, you know, could be apartments going in there. You know,
I'm gonna cut off discussion. It's not that I don't want to hear what you have to say, but we don't know enough to make a decision. I think we know what the questions are, and I think the first part is to look at the ordinances and a liability standpoint before we start determining exact solutions. So I appreciate the input. Anything from the commissioners, because you know, there's more discussion than we can do with Main Street.
We're making lots of work, and we'll find out some solutions as we still talk down the road. Okay.
Well, I just wanted to say there's 3 or 4 buildings in the 400 block. Probably all the 300 block would be, you know, susceptible to that. That's
because they're all second stories. So.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of right buildings down there for the picking.
Yeah, but we have to have a policy.
Sure.
And that's the first thing we got to do, determine a policy.
And the code's written for the safety of the public. That's not more than a building. It's for the safety of the public. Yes. You know, tenant, basically. Life.
Was it in the 70s the last time we had a whole block turned down there?
I don't know.
It was in the 80s.
Was it in the 80s?
Well, that was at the corner, well, the big fire you're talking about was at the corner of 4th and Broadway. The fatal fire was at 2nd and Broadway.
On the north or south side?
It's where the chamber building is. And that was a 2nd-story apartment or a kitchen fire. And the other one, it just got into the roof and went down, took out three storefronts.
Right.
That's why that's a single-story building there at 4th and Broadway.
It significantly changes the risk profile of downtown. I mean, if you don't sprinkle those,
Thank you for
and
bringing it to
the
us.
ISO might be improved because water supply is 40% of your score.
All right, we don't know enough.
Anyway.
Okay, we're gonna have to approach this by steps. All this is good discussion here, but I don't want to, I think we've got enough out of today's session to at least get the initial step forward. And commissioners, unless you don't have anything else, I recommend we move on to the next item.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike. Serena, Bad, appreciate it. Skip, as always.
Kevin, too.
Let's not give
Kevin,
him.
all of our problems will be solved.
Yeah, thanks for you, Murray, for bringing up, yeah, no, we know that last time we had a fire, took out the block, okay. All right, let's move on. We're looking at Kiwanis Playground upgrades at South Park.
It's Dave.
You guys want to say something about your fundraising, or?
Sure, if I could do so. So I'm Brad right now. I'm the treasurer of Kiwanis. Rod Anderson is across the room representing Kiwanis. We've been working with Miracle and Bill Wickham, and I think Bill Wickham has been working with the city to come up with a strategy to begin to put some new playground equipment that we think is greatly needed to update the playground at the South Park that is now the Kiwanis Kitty land. And we feel confident that we're going to be able to come up with $60,000, $70,000. Today I could write a check for $30,000. Probably on Tuesday I could write a check for $40,000 or $45,000. And so within a couple of months, we believe we'd come up with the rest. That we believe we got a really good figure from Miracle for some purple and gold, purple and yellow pieces of equipment to put on the South Park. If the city wants to go that way, for sure, we would certainly take your input as to the equipment that is put there. The city has been kind to suggest potentially bearing the cost of the installation, of taking out the installation of that. The equipment, if we were to pay full price, was a little over $80,000. We have a bid for a little under $60,000. And we want to make sure that we ensure putting up signage to recognize those entities that have been so kind to donate money to Kiwanis for that very specific purpose. So we believe that the all-in cost is going to be about 65 to 70 grand that Kiwanis Club would be glad to pay if the city would bear the cost of taking out the equipment and installing the new equipment and allowing us to put signage as is necessary.
Is this Miracle equipment?
Yes.
Is this has anything to do with your own?
No, separate.
This is the Kiwanis Circle.
It's additional.
That's currently there, not an additional one.
Correct.
Yeah,
The little
what's
spring
the
rocking
cost
horses.
estimates for removal and installation? Do we have those?
$5,000 maybe?
$5,000 per piece or for the whole?
For both units. There's an existing piece where the bigger unit's gonna go. The other one is we call it the sand pit. Some people call it the cat litter box. Where we want to put the hover net up there.
I wouldn't blame it.
Now, there is something up for consideration. I mean, if your guys' fundraising is going really good, there hasn't been any discussion about the new surfacing like we're putting in out at North Park. And it's expensive. Those two areas would be $53,000 to do the rubberized pour-in-place surfacing on those.
And that's with the grading and the substrate and the surface itself.
Right, yes.
Okay, so question. Is it, I'm sure it would make more sense to put the surface in along with the playground equipment, but could it be that the playground equipment be installed and the surface be installed later? Because we have a funder from a foundation. We've been sitting on some money for a couple of years, and they would like to see us spending that money or returning that money.
Right.
And so I believe, quite frankly, that we could get to $80,000 to $100,000 over time for the project. I believe we get to the $60,000 mark within 2.5 to 3 months. You're saying you would like $110,000, I think, to help with putting in the flooring, and that might take a little bit longer.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm not. I would say that the Kiwanis Club would be glad to try to help raise some funds for that purpose.
What's the answer to his question? It could be put in later?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it can be retrofitted.
Yeah.
Right now, the rest of the Kiwanis playground is the pea gravel. The issue with the pea gravel is, in order to keep it up to Consumer Product Safety Commission standards, we have to keep it constantly raked in and at the proper levels for the liability part.
And we can.
The new rubber surfacing just kind of kills that bird all by itself. There is no maintenance on it. Yeah, it's actually.
That's right, ADA, it makes it ADA compliant.
With a new play surface.
So I'm still, again, I'm
But
looking for.
access to that location would not be.
Right.
You can take corrective action on that, but one piece at a time.
Would there be a way to go ahead and get the project done, find the funding, and then Kiwanis be able to reimburse later?
That's part
Yes.
of the discussion.
Yeah, yeah.
You're talking about having the pour in place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah, done with the
And then there'd be a
project,
reimbursement
then
later.
It would be reimbursed
Yeah,
later.
that's a discussion, that's a decision to be had.
Yeah,
Right, Senator?
and well, Dive,
You guys are
Dive,
terrorizing
you're
me
gonna
today.
you're gonna get into the budget and look at the cash flow to make sure, but, you've got a steady stream of funds, right, Sandra, about 40,000 a month?
Yes.
Yeah, and so, however you wanna do it, but what could, and there may be a deficit now, but we got the funding coming down. And so, we could borrow or with ourselves, get into the budget year as that money comes in and do a payment, to reimburse down the way.
And you
Correct.
asked for removal, not installation?
Removal and
Yeah,
installation.
And installation.
Just a point of history there, that equipment is older than most of you in this room. Most of that equipment came from schoolhouses, rural schoolhouses that folded and was brought into the city. So,
Well, we don't have, from a financial, because they're gonna look at the budget real quick, but we could have an answer for that as you get.
Yeah,
into the-
we're gonna do budget stuff
Yeah.
next Thursday, right? A week from today?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Hadn't heard, okay. I mean, with us,
No,
the council, or just
yeah.
department
No,
heads?
it's the council.
No, yeah, with you all. Yeah, I was gonna address that later on.
Okay. Okay, so, thank you for the update. And I think what we're looking at right now is coming up with a decision of how you all should proceed, right? I don't know when we would have a decision to do a pour in place now with a reimbursement later. That will,
don't have a problem
that'll
with that.
take some time. Well, I can't just answer that without looking at the financials. But,
Didn't we pass a tax for that stuff?
so the issue that we have is more scheduling, right?
Right.
Crew, you have availability to tear out. There's not much of a tear out there, right?
No.
Yeah, it's more getting a grade, because there's some elevation change there
But we have those two systems that we're putting in.
at North Park. Yeah,
That's what's scheduled right now.
yeah.
That's first on the block, because those have already been ordered.
How long is Miracle guaranteed the quote they gave you?
30 days
30
from,
days.
30 days, okay.
2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay, okay.
Hey, Bill's been really good though. As far as-
Yes, he's been
He's
honoring.
really,
Yeah.
really worked with us,
Yeah, I mean, if it were me, I concur, Brad, with your assessment of can we just get something moving, get something in place, do the pour in place maybe later, if it's able to be retrofitted, and come up with a better design so there is accessibility to that ADA compliant surface, right? Because that's going to be another cost, more scheduling, more time, more supplies, right? So I could support that for sure. If you have funding that would allow you to sign that quote and get on the books with Miracle, if we can fit it in our schedule, that would be my preference.
I agree with that. I don't think there's any issue with it.
And it'll just match the rest of it.
Yeah.
Until we get down the road.
Unfortunately, yeah, the pea gravel
And that's
is.
what you want to install? 2 items?
Right, yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's what's been quoted, and that looks great.
Yeah. Because you're right, it has been a couple of years with no action, and it's time. This was to celebrate your centennial.
Ideally.
And
But hey,
that-
we're very close. We're
That
very
was
close.
last year,
Yeah, we're very close.
so, yes.
Doesn't sound like there's not a reason we can't move quickly on this.
With your grade drop, would that units be available to be installed with that terrain drop, or we have to build it up to make it flat, even, level, whatever?
I would not be the
Grading
best
issue
to
gonna
answer
be an
that,
issue?
but,
Oh, we'll get it.
no, yeah, they'll figure it out.
It's Bill's been on site, and we've worked all these out
Yeah.
a long time ago. This
So-
is all doable for what we have, the part that you see in the circle, that's up there in the sandbox.
Yeah, do we
So
need?
the second
do we
part
need
of
a-
your ask is fronting some funds, and there'll be a reimbursement from Kiwanis at some point.
But what I am hearing today is that I should have confidence going to the club on Tuesday, which is our next business meeting, and saying, if we're willing to go ahead and pay the $57,000 for the equipment, that we should have all confidence signing this, knowing that the city will put it in eventually.
Absolutely.
Fair?
Quickly as we can.
Am I on tape saying that? I can't deny it.
And then we will not stop. I will encourage the club to not stop the fundraising. Obviously, we'll need to reimburse ourselves some, going to that dollar figure. But then when we get to that 60, 70, that also pays for signage, we shall not stop, as we want to help also eventually help reimburse for the ground, the ADA accessibility. Got it? Fair enough?
That's what I hear.
I think you can say that with confidence.
Okay.
And probably to confirm it, if we, for the next council meeting, a resolution kind of, so that you have support. I mean, you have something in writing that says that, you know, a resolution would be good.
But you concur, Dave?
Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
All
good.
right, so that'll be on the next city council meeting
Thank you.
on the
Thank you.
13th.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, you're leaving now?
Oh, well, I can stay. I'd love to stay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks,
I
Brad.
appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Take care.
Hey, good to see you. Thank you.
All right, what's next? Communication tower.
Okay, we've had AT&T looking to put up a second tower in town. We already have the first. This will be a second repeater that'll work off the first tower. The land we've been trying to use has been city land because they want to do either a 30 or 40-year lease.
So what's the location again?
It's on the north park inside the fence of the maintenance building.
Only once we see I never did see any plan or site
Right.
layout or
It has to,
anything.
right.
Thank you, me neither.
Exactly, and they're gonna have to come, we just have to approve the fact that, the big question here is they wanna sign a 30 or 40-year lease for $1,000 a month with a 2% increase every year. And Dave in the street department, because if they approve the land where they wanna put the tower, he wants to be the benefactor of that.
He needs.
And I would like to have some more discussion on the rental rate and that 2% escalator.
Yeah.
Yes, the construction of is, all I heard was monopole. I don't know what that means.
It's similar to the one that's supposedly, I haven't seen anything on paper,
Right.
but it looks just exactly like the one that's next to the warehouse.
Okay.
Up on the hill.
Okay, so
Okay.
no guy wires.
The only reason that we're even open to this is just gonna be put in a waterway where the land for us is unusable as far as,
I see.
we're not, there's no room for expansion as far as any.
Is that
thing
where,
we
is that
need.
where our drain is for the water tower, or that waterway, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it
So I
wouldn't,
guess as long as AT&T's okay with having a deluge going over it every now and then.
every now and then, yeah. And it would not impede water flow.
No.
Right.
And there will be a maintenance, not a maintenance, but an electronics house next to the base of
Right.
the tower.
Right.
Where the electronics will be, like a shed-sized building.
But this
So-
is what we need to
Yes.
actually
Yes,
see
And then-
something.
agreed.
The whole thing has been
Site layout.
the fact that it's gotta connect with the other tower, so it has the capability of repeating. to bring more signal from drop calls and stuff. They're having a lot of complaints of drop calls on
Right.
AT&T service in this town. So
Which it's really the central part of the city, right? So the city, the area of the city we're sitting in right now. Because they, if I remember right, they geolocated a spot at 6th and Bond.
Boys.
Boys, okay, where they would like to have placed.
that would have been the
This-
ideal center location.
Right, to serve the central
Right. But
section of the city.
It's all residential. It's
This goes
other-
quite a bit further north, because if I remember what the gentleman's name was, Dean Glenn.
Glenn.
He said that a quarter of a mile outside that location, that 6th and Boys, would be almost out of the question.
We're almost pushing the boundary now.
That's
from where it's
well
at.
beyond a half mile.
Right. Well.
Are they still okay with that?
Supposedly they are. They gave me the okay from the people who certified that it would
Okay.
work. The engineers
Okay.
have certified the location. Now somebody still has to come visually see the location.
I've got two questions on this. Is one, is this a good deal for us, for the city? You know, have we negotiated, why not $2,000 or initial?
Not yet. We haven't even got past the location, if we could even install one, to consider that conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So once the conversation of the installation is approved, then we can debate.
Yeah, you're right about the rate. I also have concerns about just a flat 2% escalation. I would rather tie it to CPI.
I think what we ought to do with this, and I'm assuming there's a need for AT&T customers.
Absolutely.
Do they serve? If I remember my FAA rules, when you build a tower, you have to make some provisions for other services to go on the tower, like Verizon. Is that correct?
I don't know if that's correct in this case. Yeah, I don't know if that's correct in this case. Now, I would love the fact that we did have a tower where other users could be on it as rental property, but I don't think this one is part of that.
Let's let Mickey look at this, and we might want to look at some negotiations on the terms.
Yeah. That's what at least was included in the package, so
That's all
we
you're
can
gonna.
review.
That's all you're gonna.
That's what I was gonna say. One is he needs, that's what I was gonna say. He needs the site location, he needs, we need to know that it's subject to FAA approval, and then he can sit down and compare with other cities and negotiate if it needs to be negotiated. And it may or may not come up at this next council meeting based on the timing, but go ahead.
There is one other thing for the council to consider, and that's if you guys are all right with that money being dedicated to the North Park Cemetery, guys. If you're not, if it's gonna be a general fund thing, then it's out.
Why is
I don't
that?
want it there. If it's not gonna be of benefit to my guys, you can find a different location.
You mean on maintenance, you mean on,
I mean the income off of it. I want it to be dedicated to North Park and Cemetery. That's the only reason that this is even being discussed, you know? I just want that out there.
is that for
because-
maintenance or is that for people or what?
So that comes in negotiation with them.
You're saying put the revenue into his department's budget.
Yeah, well, the cemetery is part of the general fund and it can be dedicated. It can be dedicated and if, if the council wants to, it could be assured that it's in the general fund, but it could be line item.
And this was a 350 foot?
150 foot.
Well, I'm sorry, yes, okay, yeah. Yeah, the 300 is what he called,
That would definitely be an FAA, you get the ceiling there.
The radio station's tower is
Yeah.
400 feet.
400?
No, 245.
The new one's different.
245.
Okay, the old one was 400.
Well, is there any argument that this is a 150-foot tower?
No, it's 150 foot.
All right. Okay.
So the next steps is what? Just
Mickey takes a look at the contract. Is this contract and also?
It's just a templated contract. There's nothing filled in.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he'll negotiate, get the AT&T guy and get the players in the room and and he'll negotiate the contract.
Everything else is residential. We're trying our darndest to find city property for this to happen so the city can benefit from the contract. And then back to, nobody wants a 150-foot tower shadow in their backyard.
I do.
But there's no other location in their quarter-mile circle.
Okay.
Just along the north side of Cleveland is inside that quarter mile, and that little piece right there is zoned for towers, and it's commercial, so they can have a tower in commercial. So there's really no other option for them besides the city's properties.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you.
Mike.
If there's no other option, then yeah, you guys got some room to negotiate.
You bet.
That whatever, $1,300-1,400 ain't near enough.
It's one.
Yeah.
It was 1,000.
1,000? Yeah, no. Yeah, it needs to be a lot more than that.
Well, and another question, just throw it out
Give
there.
them land up
Question is, do they have the rights to allow other people to be on that tower?
I don't believe that's a factor.
Pardon?
I don't believe that's actually gonna be in the conversation. I don't think that's gonna be a no is my point.
Okay, but it may be part of the agreement.
It could be.
Yeah.
You know, let them tell you.
From our end.
Okay, I think we're all agreed that, let's give Mickey a shot at this.
Good deal.
All right, let's move on to increasing fees at Windmill Golf Course.
Our fiscal year, the golf course starts the same year as the fiscal year for the city. We've had the new rates for 18 and 9 hole tournament fees and the cost of annual membership. And we have 30 days to put this out there before it starts April 1st, so I brought it to the table today with the new rates that are proposed. This has been conversation with me and everyone at the course. Darryl Easley.
What are the old rates? I don't need all of them,
Yeah.
just generally how much.
It's generally a 2 to 4% increase across the board. It's not a whole lot, not at all. You know, green fees currently now are 24. I think it went to 27 on the first page. So there you go. You went from 24 to 27, and the cart rental fee went up $1
Forgive me, I
per
was
day
up-
per golfer.
Forgive me, I was updating some notes, so I didn't hear. Was there a comparison to other municipal golf courses in the area?
Yes, we have to be competitive with all the others around our area. We
And
do
how
compare.
do we fare right now?
Actually, we're going to be just a tad bit over Cassville and Mount Vernon. Not by much though, within $5 range per golfer per day.
Mount Vernon's a 9-hole course.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I am not a golfer. I would never admit to be one.
Nobody is.
That's why I say it that way.
But there was
but from what I understand, I'm sorry, but from what I understand, the Cassville course, very nice course. No, I don't know.
It's okay.
Okay. How does it?
And our course.
What I'm ultimately getting at is if we're going to be higher than other municipal courses, my expectation is that we would have a very nice facility to justify. I know we also need the funding to improve the course.
That's another reason
Which
it went up.
absolutely, yep, I get that, and we all know budgetarily it's been a drain financially on the city, but we need to definitely look
How
at
do you
these
guys
things.
compare with Schiff and Neosho, Schiff and Decker?
I didn't compare Joplin.
Oh. Their public course would be pretty similar to this one.
Okay, in quality?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can
That's
tell you,
good to know.
you know, Springfield, if you want, I play Springfield a little bit, and I can tell you we're very inexpensive compared to golf courses out that way.
So the improvement here is based on just raising it right now?
We're spending a lot of money on maintenance last year, and payroll went up a bit. We have maxed out on all our employees. We have everybody in place. We've actually trimmed the clubhouse down 2 people to accommodate what we really only need. And then we're gonna have we seeded. We put winter grass out there so we could have some grass. We compensated for the loss of the back 9 holes 10 through 18, and we had to close for a while. We had to reseed throughout the course. There's going to be equipment purchases this year too, and naturally just our regular chemicals, seed and feed.
Speaking of, I know I've asked this question before, and forgive me for forgetting the answer, but does the Parks Department and the Golf Department combine in purchasing so that we can get better pricing?
Yes, we piggyback
We do.
on chemicals.
We do.
Okay, very
Yes,
good.
chemicals and seed.
Okay, good.
It all goes through Greensboro.
Excellent.
Okay. Well, yeah, there you go. That's something I was not aware of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So have you, we've already, we haven't got delivery yet, but we've made our order for after April 1st where the budget starts with this.
So have we.
Okay, that's the answer.
Yeah, we deal with the same salesperson, same,
What's,
same,
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. But I thought you were gonna go and ask if we were part of Parks and Rec. And
Oh, no.
Yeah,
No, I was,
sorry.
I had always wondered that, with
So-
all my years with the ball league, knowing Larry
And
would always
we-
purchase his.
yeah.
And we redefined the single students. It was all over the board. There were time constraints. If you golf before noon, if you golf afternoon, if you golf at twilight, we're gonna have just a flat fee across all hours of the day. We're gonna open up earlier so we could get more golfers in the morning. And we're gonna lose the maintenance day, and they're not proud of this, but I would like to lose the maintenance day because they don't open till 11 on Tuesdays. And I said, well, how about we maintenance, and we start on the back nine while we maintenance the front nine, and vice versa the next day. And they're willing to work with me on that, because they didn't open up until 8 o'clock.
Who's the they you were talking about?
Sir?
Who's the they you were talking about?
Daryl and Mike, Jim
Okay.
Economo,
Okay.
primarily the main two that's
All
in the conversation. Jim runs the clubhouse, and Daryl runs he's the superintendent, and he's also the maintenance manager up there for taking care of the greens. And we're gonna have a playable course April 1st, and we're gonna start with the new hourly, the new annual membership is gonna change. We're gonna have good cart rentals. We got 33 people that have carts at the course that are gonna pay a annual or monthly fee to keep their carts, and we pay the electricity for them to charge their carts, basically.
Well,
But they're gonna
but they're
pay a rental
paying-
fee. Yeah,
they're
paying a
paying
rental,
a
yes, sir.
rental fee.
And that went up. And then we defined again the seniors rate, the 8 to 17 child and student rate, and then we made it a single charge across the board for, there will be no twilight, there will be no, lunchtime, etc. It'll be $44 with a card per person per day. And that's 7 days a week. It's very simple to follow. At least I wanted it to be.
And
Because there was a lot
You
of.
have it. You talked to some of the golfers out there.
Yes,
as well.
sir.
That's like a golf advisory board or something like that.
There was, but they dissolved. But there are a few, everybody who pays a fee believes they're an advisor, so we take all their consideration. I dropped off these rates about 2 weeks ago to start to get some of the input, and I haven't had any complaints.
Okay. I don't have it. I don't have any issue with this. We know we need to maintain the golf course.
It's a little bit easier.
It reduces the golf course being in the red zone. Go ahead.
I had a question. Darren, you alluded to a 30-day notice.
Yeah, per the ordinance last year, that was in the ordinance last year that we had to not include it in this ordinance this year. There was a ordinance that said that we had to put the fees out there 30 days before the fiscal year
That's
starts.
we do not have a.
Now, we can dissolve that, we don't have to
Oh,
put that
okay, that
ordinance
was
out
my
there.
question. I know that we have 30 days on water and sewer required by state, but there's nothing in the cities.
It was in last year's ordinance, so I carried it over. So if you don't want to do it.
Yeah, okay, so you have a sample that was done. You were just as a courtesy communicating
That's
that
correct.
you wanted to have
That.
30-day notice,
That's
so,
correct.
okay. That's all I.
This draft ordinance that we're looking at, it's copied from last year's rate increase, yes?
Yeah, it's something
Yes, sir.
that Darren gave me.
Oh, okay, but it was,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Mike, if you wouldn't mind, I'm sorry, scrolling up to the language, what you're talking about with the 30 days is, you just have to post the
Right.
rate change 30 days prior to
That's
them
correct.
taking effect.
Right.
I don't see any
But
issue
that's
with
not
that.
required by, that's.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's required by our city code.
Right.
Oh,
Right,
it is?
section 230,
Oh, okay, that's what I was asking.
yeah.
Uh,
So it's just gotta be 30 days in advance of taking effect. So,
okay. Okay,
that's all.
okay.
Okay. Any more
Thank you.
discussion? I don't have any issues with it. As written.
Is it gonna be voted today? Or do you want to put it on the council
This,
meeting?
it's an ordinance, we're not gonna vote today.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, we'll vote on it, the 13 March.
So-
But you could go ahead and put it out for the 30 days review for people
Oh,
now.
sure, yeah, you can.
Okay, thank you.
All right, what's next regarding new city hangar at Monett Regional Airport?
And that's the city hangar?
Yes,
Correct.
it is.
Okay. Oh, hey, Jaden. Let me see, Jaden.
And then we're gonna get
Yes.
there. Yeah, so this will be a quick conversation on the city hangar,
Remember that?
for the 80 by 80, and then the advisory board wish to have a comparison to a 90 by 90, presented. So I talked to Aviation on it, and they were able to run some numbers for us. The 80 by 80 currently, is estimated to be 1.4 million. We're expecting that to come lower when we go to bid, about 1.2. At this moment, with the 80 by 80, we're looking to go up to a $2 per square foot cost, which would make our net, will be net positive with the hangar, roughly around that 10-year mark, or a little bit sooner, so 9 to 10 year mark, paying off that hangar for the 100 to 120,000 that the city would put in. If we went to a 90 by 90, it would be about $400,000 to $500,000 out of pocket compared to the 100 to 120,000. And that, after talking to Joe Pesca, who is the Aviation consultant, that's a low side estimate. Like if we got good bids and everything went well, that would be the price, but expect maybe another 100, 200,000 on top of that, quite possibly. Also with the fact that we wouldn't be able to do a 90 by 90 till next year, because we'd have to re-go through all of our surveying, design process, which we'd have to repay for. You'd be looking at next year and prices just continuously go up.
We paid for the 80, again.
No, go ahead.
You paid for the, we paid already for the engineering for the 80 by 80.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
that project's ongoing.
We're pretty much restarting over with it. If we go to 90
On the
by 90.
same, on the same piece of property?
Yes.
Or another one?
No, same.
What's the purpose of raising it to a 90/90?
That's a great question. A 90 by 90 would give us that extra square footage. My opinion or my recommendation is that really wouldn't cause too much of an issue, that wouldn't really cause too much more revenue to be generated for the price, along with the fact that going to a 90 by 90, I know the advisory board mentioned adding larger aircraft into that hangar. However, that's not feasible currently with this price, because you can't get an aircraft around that south T hangar location. And so really the only thing you can put in there, which is what the 80 by 80 was meant for, would be small, lightweight aircraft or less.
Up to 8, I believe your number was. 8 small aircraft.
Yes,
In a 80
eight
by
small
80.
aircraft or less, depending on what aircraft goes in there.
Okay.
Looking for future wise, we can expand that apron and do that, though that would be a separate cost we'd have to look at doing as well, if we're wanting to put larger aircraft back there. In terms of the hangar itself, we'd also be looking at the $2 per square foot, because that's our goal going to 2026 or 2025, 2026 fiscal years, getting to that $2 per square foot area. And you're looking around 25, quite possibly up to 30 years to pay off that hangar, depending on how bids come in, for a 90 by 90.
Let me dive in just a little bit here. Because I think it's important that the public realizes this. And you all, and you probably know this, but we get funding from the state and FAA for particular projects. And so this hangar is set to go, and the engineering, we met the deadline, the engineering's being proceeding. And but it's important to the public that we get 90% roughly 90% funding for that $1 million or, new hangar. And that's been on the list as a need. You all need to know that every year every year the state and FAA ask what is in your list. And you project out for 5 years because we get so much money and they have to the advisory board advises, and that's the way it should work, and then you all should at least know what you're applying for and what those projects, but the main thing I wanted to communicate is that this is being paid for by federal funds. This additional money, we aren't having to buy it back or pay for it. This is money into the, correct me if I'm wrong, that's into the coffers, for us. It's the rent that we would generate. At the last meeting, Joe, because I said, well, if we're gonna make this change, what are the ramifications of it? Could we use additional funding, in our STIP and our plan to do this? What would the delay mean? And Joe's comment was that we need to have a meeting and study and talk about that. That's the way we left it. But the pros and cons and whatever Jaden's, has communicated his pros and cons. But I just wanted to communicate that because the public thinks, what are we spending all that money for? It's 10-cent dollars. So I just wanted to let the public know that.
Now, you also can verify that you have a waiting list of people.
Yes, I can verify that. I can't give
So we'll be full.
names or tail numbers for it, but I can verify the different aircraft that I have on that list and the amount of people on it.
And weren't we supposed to build a second 80 by 80 next to this one in the future?
So, yes, future-wise, yes, I can say
Would a 90 by 90 now
Um,
be the new plan, or what are your plans?
So going into future projects, looking at a 90 by 90 or an 80 by 80, that's mainly based off of, one, do we have the federal funding to help back it so we're not spending a whole bunch of money out of pocket? The second thing would be, do we have demand for it? In a second, or the 80 by 80 we're currently building is a good asset to have, as that gives us opportunity to have light jet aircraft in that location and also be able to filter through because of the fact that we're really just needing T hangars at this point. T hangars would be able to get me out of having a wait list, and we'd also be pulling from other airports that have wait lists, which Jeff Newmeyer brought up in his presentation to the advisory board last month on that or I guess earlier this month on that subject. The nice thing about 80 by 80 is that it has a lot more flexibility than T hangars. However, if really looking and focusing on this hangar and this project specifically, we can either stay by the 80 by 80. We're already done pretty much 90% of the work outside of going to bid and getting the project started. We can wait a year and do a 90 by 90, which at that point will have a higher cost, and really the return on investment is really not there. So my recommendation would be either doing an 80 by 80, and if this is not feasible or not wanted to be done by council, holding off on the project and doing a T hangar next year.
On a different location.
Well,
at a different location, yes. It would have to be a different location.
Yeah, and that's where my question, I was right on, is can we even delay the project? Would the state and the FAA allow us, and what would that do to our other projects that we have? And so he's right on, whether or not we do T hangars. T hangars do not generate that much, but there's a waiting list all over for T hangars, and activity brings on activity. But so the way we left it was we were going to sit down and get the information as far as how that impacts, what are our options as far as how that impacts our future funding.
So clarify on that slightly. We do make more money off of T-hangers just because of the square footage and the aircraft in them. If we were to go off and redo our structure instead of going off of a 15 cents per square foot, and instead going to based off of aircraft size, which I don't recommend because that causes several issues later down the line, and doing it off of that, you could do and get more money off of the larger aircraft. When it comes to making money at the airport, outside of a T-hanger or a box hanger or a corporate hanger, the fuel is the reason why you would end up making more money, and that's if they fly it consistently. From what we're looking at in terms of profit margin, you're looking at $240,000 a year in fuel sales. About 100,000 of that, a little over that, is small avgas sales, and so we make roughly. Pretty much the main gist is if we're going to continuously want to grow the airport, it'd be in the best interest of the airport and the city to build T-hangers after this point until we have solidified our wait list and along with brought in more customer basis, and then look at doing a second box hanger, and with the infrastructure that we'd be doing with the T-hangers, because we'd be taking it south towards our flight school down there on the south apron, that gives more opportunities and easier access for companies to come in and build hangars behind those T-hangers, which would make access and usability easier. In terms of the going off of funds and trying to tail back into the 90 by 90, all of that would be out of pocket, and yes, there are options to get money from the state. However, the main focus, which I believe you'd all would agree with, is getting the AWAS moved. Which asking that from the state would be the #1 priority, and focusing on having those hangars built, or building more hangars in the future, and having the ability to have hangars being built behind T-hangars would be more beneficial. So that's my statement. Anyway.
Quick question for you. On this spreadsheet or sheet that you had given us, the square footage monthly rental, they're showing as fractions, or
the monthly rentals on is 6,400 square feet or 8,100 square feet. The numbers at the top is giving a cents per square foot. Joe Pesca did that just to kind of elaborate and show, like, if we were only to charge 75 cents a square foot or $1 per square foot, $2 up to.
I'm just wondering if the decimal place is off, because right there we're seeing 2.5 cents in that first column.
Needs to be $1.
Yes, the decimal place is off.
Okay, so that is supposed to be 25 cents, 50 cents, 75 cents, $1?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
But I wouldn't be charging that low anyways.
I get it. No, I was just trying to understand those headings. So, if what I'm hearing you say is that your recommendation would be that we proceed with the 80 by 80, the current project as it is in flight, no pun intended.
Yes.
Because this is now a question, is there the potential of a delay to favor a 90 by 90 and potentially not having any federal funds available a year from now or 2 years from now, whatever?
That's what you were talking about.
So yes, we will be getting more funding next year. Technically, as of right now, it's $300,000, but I wouldn't get my hopes up on that. And we've discussed with how the federal government is kind of cutting stuff. We're probably only looking at getting our $150,000 next year.
That's the reason for my question, is we don't know, right? Where the current grant is known.
Yes,
we have this.
Yes, we have this. If you wanted to wait, we would get $150,000 that we could put towards a 90 by 90, but really you're sinking that back into design work, and it's not really, you're going to end up spending more money on it.
It's just 100 square feet difference.
Yes. You might be able to fit one more plane, possibly.
we don't know if FAA would approve at doing this.
Yeah.
And we do not know
Yeah.
what the delay would be. We don't know that.
Yeah.
That's where Joe comes in, and that's what the discussion, if it's even feasible. The only option, if that's not, we don't get that, and we have a delay, potentially, we don't know when that would take place, then the only option is that if the city wants to make up the difference and pay for that extra cost, if we don't get it, that's an option. And what Jaden said was that our highest priority is that AWAS situation.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Absolutely.
I mean, I was just
Yep. So
summarizing.
So what is the goal of us here today? We're just discussing this, and is there an expectation of a decision from the council?
Somewhat a decision on council. The other reason for this is because the advisory board can also, I'm assuming this is recorded. Yes, so they can also look into this and also ask questions prior to our advisory board meeting on
11th.
the 11th of March.
Are there any deadlines that you're up against right now with our current existing project?
Just bidding.
Waiting for bids and waiting for the project. The longer we wait on this, the longer it's gonna take to actually build a hangar.
But you're not proceeding to bids until you have
Yes,
a
I
final
can't
decision.
proceed to bids until
Okay.
we have an agreement from council on this.
And by the way, it was communicated to the chairman that we would be discussing this at this
Sure.
meeting,
When's their next meeting?
the 11th.
March 11. Okay, which then, if we were to take any action, would be the April council meeting.
It would be the
That's up
or,
to
yeah,
you.
Yeah.
14th of March.
Is that enough time?
Yes, that'd be.
Okay.
They normally meet on Mondays or
Yeah.
Tuesdays?
Mondays.
Okay, so that would be the 10th.
10th.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
10th and then 13th.
Well, I guess it's another day if you want to put that on the agenda.
It's my last.
Where
And
you
it's
gonna
not
be?
lost on me, the wait list.
Yeah.
Our wait list is very stout.
Our wait list is sitting at roughly between 16 to 20.
Other airports are not as fortunate. There are people who want to come here.
Yes, and also if we had the space, we'd easily be able to pull from those other airports. You're looking at, I mean, most of the airports around us have at least a wait list of 20 plus. I'm not gonna include Springfield on that because
Sure, that's not comparable.
it's outrageous. So we'd even be able to pull from other local areas to our airport, which would just help boost us even more.
Okay. Thank you, appreciate it.
All right. Jeff, you want to go into the additional work sessions?
yeah.
And maybe your report?
Yeah, you can read my report. I sent that out. That's my last report.
Is that why it says final?
Yeah, it says final on there. So my time's short, and today's my last day. And to make a smooth transition, I copied all my emails. He has access. Mickey has access to all my emails. It's truly been a delight working with him, with Mickey this last week. I want to go on record that Mickey is a true professional, and you should. He will provide you good advice, and I enjoyed serving with him, and I wish the city well. On budget.
If I may?
Yes.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
service here. Thank you for your time, your
Thank you.
dedication to us.
I'm like
Appreciate it.
the Boy Scout. Hopefully I left it a little bit better, the campground a little bit better. And I failed to mention this, but I want to because the staff, you've got an excellent staff. And Monett has a bright future. And if I was younger, I'd be here in a heartbeat if I was fat, but I mean, I'd be applying for this job because it's just a dynamite community. On the budget, I think that the budget work session was very good. And from a standpoint of everybody hearing, Dave made that comment, you know, you hear that there's a lot of needs that are going on. I have had time we had a good session yesterday, and Mickey's gonna hit the ground running. I'm sorry, Darren, I didn't get it done. I know, I know, I didn't get it done. I didn't get it done. Darren said, well, I only kept you on so you could get the budget done, and I failed in that endeavor. But you're in good hands. The only comment I would like to make is, and this was what the title was, I think that your work sessions are tremendous, and I think that you should be looking at additional work sessions, particularly with this budget coming on. And so it's a goal of Mickey and Sandra to have something on the budget, you know, to discuss at the next work session.
This is the one on the 6th.
On the 6th, which is ahead of time, and then you can go from there. The one thing, I wanted to just make 2 comments on the budget. My impression of that meeting that we had is that when Dave was talking about equipment and things that are 20 years old, and other people were talking about things that are 20-year-old, what struck me is, my only thing is that and they've done a great job of taking care of it, and it's an asset. My only thing is something to look at is getting that equipment, and it's not only Dave, it's other, you know, other people. You know, you asked that question before, you know, sharing and seeing the total picture and trying to bid out things at the same time. But something that you should look at, I think, is trying to do a lease purchase or a COPS or something to raise that equipment up. That is great for morale. We've done a pretty good job on, you know, cars and vehicles, but that equipment is crucial. And Dave, I'm looking at Dave, and same thing with Skip. They can be more productive if they've got good equipment that they can do. They could do a lot of different things, and he talked about a lot of that. So that's my only. That was my one comment. The second thing is, just as a preliminary, and I'm just looking at general fund. You budgeted last time more expenses than you had revenue for. Now we haven't, Mickey has not explored completely the revenues that we're looking at. But obviously, if we were presenting the general fund, you'd see a big deficit. You know, if we funded everything that everybody wanted to do, it'd be huge. And my final thing is, the city of Monett does not have a cash fund policy. And your financial advisors recommend, and that's one of the big goals that you all, when you look at that budget, is what is your cash fund? Because the financial advisors recommend that you have at least 3 to 6 months of operating, less capital improvements to do that. And we've laid out the potential, what you can do. But, you know, we remember when we did the goals and we said, you know, council's up here and you know, and they're supposed to be looking at the big picture, and then let the departments, you know, we had that little picture, you know, and glide path and all that. So I always recommend council stay up atop, stay up looking at policy, looking at And one of the biggest things is fund balance. And so you can do projections, make projections into the next year and see where your trend is going. And when you get your budget, that's what you should be concentrating on. Seems like that there was another comment, but I think that's it. So I've enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
service. Appreciate it. You guys sure some big things. Anything else before we go into closed session? So the next session is going to be 6 March.
Can we talk about this planned budget work session next week?
Yeah.
Because I do not know if I have availability.
Oh, okay.
That was my request.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we can change that.
Yeah.
Based on your availability.
And this is Thursday, the 6th?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's the day we're going to Hollis Acres and Arnie.
Correct.
What time would this meeting be?
Well, it'd be 9:30 in the morning.
Because the All the Takers Arnie meeting
Right.
is at 11.
We
in
would have to
Central.
leave here at 10.
Mm-hmm.
So you wouldn't be available, you wouldn't be available. Who else, anyone else going?
No.
Can we push the workshop to the afternoon? Is that?
Yeah, we can do that. So we're looking around 1 o'clock because your meeting's that'd be pushing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I would have a hard stop at 4.
So 2, is that what you're saying, or
No,
1:30?
that's what I'm hearing.
You guys have an issue with doing it on Friday, and I would do it earlier, but
Yeah.
he and Son are gonna need some time to come with the draft budget as an
Yeah.
input for
Yeah.
that.
I'm available. Pick it.
I can do Friday easier than Thursday.
Why don't you just keep the meeting with Olis and Acker, what are they called?
Alice Acres.
Okay, Alice. Let's keep Alice going. And then we'll do the work session on Friday. Let's start at 9:30 down here.
Okay.
And I don't think there's anything else on the agenda. I want to focus on just the agenda, or just the budget.
What's that date?
It'll be March 7.
Thank you.
About a 2-hour duration, you think?
Have you got like?
I would say at least.
friends available? No.
Okay.
All right, we'll shoot for the 7th. And Mike, if we could get out something on Facebook to let everyone know it's going to be at a different date next week, I appreciate it.
Oh, was it already posted?
No.
Oh, okay. Phew. Sorry.
Yeah, we can do an announcement that there will be a special meeting.
So special budget.
Session next week.
Fair enough.
And that should be a pretty easy agenda, right? It's just gonna be budget hearing.
Just budget.
It's budget, yeah.
We can go ahead and issue the agenda tomorrow.
Sure, we can do that.
Yeah, you're asking if there's anything else, right?
Right.
I would say no.
Yeah, we can put out the agenda and I'll do it the way I normally do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had talked about an executive session with litigation and personnel. But
After the budget?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we put that closed session there, we got a plan for 3 hours, yeah.
As long as we're comfortable, we know what's gonna be on the agenda and we can get the agenda out early.
Yeah.
If not, I can still just do a soft open on.
I'd just say we're gonna speak, or the meeting is, we'll get the agenda out later. Just, I wanna notify the public if they're doing on Friday instead of normal Thursday. So that first agenda will follow, and it's gonna be mainly budget. Okay, do I have any motion to go into a closed session for the purpose of security measures?
I'll make the motion, but I don't know the agenda for who is gonna remain.
Yeah, it'll be Dave.
And anyone else that you choose.
I would say certainly the council, of course, Kelly, the 2 administrators. Oh, you wanna leave?
No.
You really wanna get out of here. Okay, administrator, Kelly, and Dave, do we need anyone else at this meeting?
Yeah, they do.
If George or Dave or any of the department heads want to stay, it's relevant to them.
I will stay because of security.
Yeah, it will be relevant to department heads because they participated in this. So.
All right, let's convene and close, I'm sorry.
So we have the
We got a
motion.
second.
Have the names.
I'll second.
Yeah, can we take a 5-minute break, reconvene in 5 minutes? I need to take a potty break.
Yeah, roll call
Yeah.
vote first.
Mayor Randy Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Ken Gasper,
Aye.
Commissioner Darren
Why you
Indovina.
had to do me last? Yes.
All right.